By building new good habits.
Yes.
And in this particular case, the good habit of saving.
Very true.
Yeah.
Very true.
And investing. It's interesting because the church that I used to go to, Nairobi Lighthouse, many years ago, we used to meet at the stadium. And you know, at the stadium there are bleachers.
Yeah.
So when if you come, you should be able to sit anywhere. But as strange as it would be, it's like everybody knew where they were supposed to sit. And if you came and you found somebody else seated there, you would feel offended.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's true, we are creatures of habit. But coming back to this money thing, so that we make sure that people understand why this is so behavioral is so important in our Chumz product. We do not come from a culture where people save.
Yeah.
It's not a natural habit for us.
Yes.
We have a consuming habit. If you give your child 1,000 bob, the first thing they think is, Mom and Dad, they take me to the shop. I want to buy some toys.
Very true.
So saving is not in us. So you have to bridge this gap by building new habit.
Correct.
Yeah. So how is that playing in Chumz?
Yeah, so I like the way you're saying bridging that habit.
Yes.
Because remember also the thing that makes it very hard to save is if you save and invest, for you to get the returns, you have to be patient.
Yes.
But at the same time, there are these competing interests.
And patience also is a habit.
It's a habit
you need to build.
Very true. It's a habit you need to build. But on the other hand, you have this, competing interests that give you what we call instant gratification. Correct. You do it and you're very happy.
You feel nice.
For example, you go and watch a movie today, the result and and that adrenaline and the excitement is instant. On the other hand, saving and investing is long term. You actually have to forego that instant gratification and you wait. Yeah. So what you're doing with the app is, one is to remind you your initial goal of trying to save and invest. So for example, one of the things we do, on Fridays at around 8:20 p.m., we usually send out a text saying, hi, 8:20 p.m.
p.m.
Yes, on Fridays. At night. The app sends a notification saying, hi, Piers, weekends have heavy spending, save something today. But the way we have designed that, we know at 8:20 p.m. there are quite a number of people who are out having sherehe or having fun. So if they see that notification and they know maybe they are spending on a drink or on some meals, there's a bit of guilt tripping. And it ties to the initial goal. So they go to the app and they actually save. Very simple. But now that's on behavioral psychology perspective. Now we have tied into your psychology, you're spending here, but you had said you're going to save. At the same time, you are aware over the weekend you're going to spend even more. Why don't you save now? So that's one. Other things we do is, for example, if someone sends you money on your mobile money, we'll say, hi, Piers, you have received 2,300 shillings. Would you like to save the 300 shillings on top and round off your balance to a flat amount? Something very simple, but if you go to behavioral psychology side, what it does, it reduces the amount of thinking you have to do to decide how much you want to save. The app has already suggested for you.
You've overcome the barriers.
The barriers, yes. So like you having to ask yourself, how much do I need to save? Do I save 500? And then you start doing, calculations in your head, trying to compare the things you need to spend on. The app has already suggested. All you need to do is say yes, put your PIN, it automatically saves. So that's one. Other things we have done are gamified ways of saving. For example, and this depends on your lifestyle. If you're a big football fan, say you really love Arsenal. So the question is,
not Arsenal.
You don't like Arsenal. Which one?
It's okay. It's okay.
You're a big fan of Man U.
It's okay. We are not talking, but not Arsenal.
It's very clear. Piers is not saying his team. We hope it's winning. So whatever team you support, you can say, whenever they win a game, I want the app to be telling me to save. So what that does is, the app will be telling you, hey, Your team has a match at 4:30 p.m.
Yes.
So it ties to your lifestyle,
Yes.
things you already like.
Yes.
It will now be telling you when the games are coming up. Tells you now in advance there's a game between your team and this team. Then tells you the scores. So now you can actually know the scores of the game from the app. But then on top of that, it tells you, hey, look, you had said if your team wins, you're going to save X amount. So the app will now tell you, now save. And it will show you the whole fixture of your team.
You know what is so interesting? Even as you're talking, you're helping me to understand Chumz even more.
Yeah.
In this era of AI, I'm realizing that Chumz is my saving and investment assistant.
Correct. Actually, the term we have seen most users use, they call it savings and investment partner. We were shocked. And how that came about is from the interviews we had, they were saying Chumz is a partner.
Because it's like I have this other person who is next to me, and they know me so well, and they are constantly reminding me the moments when I should save. So they're helping me to overcome that mental barrier of having to decide, should I save or should I not save? So they've already made that it is time to save. So you just
put something on the side.
You just put your pin.
Yes.
But we've gotten a bit further than where we should be. Remember, we want to tell people how Chumz came about.
Yes.
Is Chumz the first fintech product that you guys put together?
No. So
because it's important that we understand how you arrived at now we need a savings product.
Yeah. So for me personally, what happened was in high school. That's when I had my first interaction with computers.
Yes. Which high school?
That was in Nairobi school.
Nairobi school.
Yes. So there was this program whereby they were trying to see how can internet be used in high schools. And I remember the two schools that were chosen was Nairobi school and another one was Pangani Girls.
Pangani Girls.
Yes. So sort of that, I had decided to do computer studies because I had seen this whole evolution of businesses that are being tied to tech. So I thought, this is something interesting. It ties my interest in business, my interest in, innovations and technology. It's a blend. I think it's a sweet spot for me. So from that, in campus, I went and did computer science at the University of Nairobi. But then for me, doing computer science, I knew I was more attuned to what tech can do as an enabler in building businesses. There are people who like tech for the tech's sake, the technical aspects. But for me, I knew the confluence of the technology, the business, it would form a very sweet spot.
Yeah.
So by the time I was right before graduation, I started my first company called Chura, which dealt with airtime.
Before graduating
the uni.
From university?
Yes.
You studied what? Computer
science.
Computer science.
Yes. Yeah, so I went to the university and told them, look.
So you didn't even look for a job?
No.
Have you ever worked for anyone?
No.
That's nice.
Yeah. So it's basically a very steep learning space as well.
Yeah.
So I thought, why don't I try and build these companies and see how this can work? So I started my first company called Chura, like a frog, dealing with airtime distribution for companies and for individuals. Again,
airtime distribution.
Airtime distribution.
Okay. So the company would buy in bulk?
Yes.
And then distribute?
Yes. A very simple premise.
Staff. Yes.
Companies, so it was built on a very simple premise that companies, supply airtime to the employees and to the agents. But in sub-Saharan Africa, people average more than one SIM card. Why? Because they're trying to maximize unique benefits of each telco. Someone has an Airtel line because of data plans, a Safaricom line because of mobile money, a Telecom line because of cheap calling rates, maybe in the evening. So for you to supply airtime to employees, you'd need a system that is able to supply across all networks. Whatever network they have.
Yes.
Yeah, so we did that, and the company grew. But then again, at some point, I decided to try this whole credit scoring modeling. So the whole premise around that was, how can you use what we call alternative data? This is data like how you utilize your airtime, how you pay your utility bills, how much you have on your mobile money. Basically aggregating that data and creating AI models and statistical models to try and see whether you are creditworthy. So for that, did that for a couple of years with another team, built the solution for markets like Uganda, Haiti,
for credit
Ethiopia,
scoring.
yes.
So you are building it for consumption by the banks?
Yeah, banks.
By
correct.
the banks.
Banks and microfinances.
And microfinance.
And also people who wanted to get into digital lending.
So they would use your platform. It was called what?
Weza.
Weza.
Yes.
They would use Weza to be able to know who to lend to and who not to lend to.
Yeah, correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Okay.
And also for things like payment companies who already had a lot of data,
yeah,
would model their data and inform whether they can lend to their clients or not,
okay,
and at what ticket sizes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that one had grown, but then COVID happened. I remember we had also big clients in Ethiopia. So what happened there was also war broke out in Ethiopia. So I always tell people, whenever you are signing agreements, there's usually a clause called "Vis major act of God." So for me, I saw it firsthand.
Yeah.
Yeah, how that can flip something you didn't expect. COVID happens, people are not borrowing, banks don't want to give loans.
Yeah.
At the same time, there's no movement, and then you also had war that broke out in Ethiopia, where we had some of our major projects there.
Yeah.
With some of the banks
So
there.
it affected your
The business.
Weza.
Yes.
Yeah.
And at the same time now, investors couldn't invest.
Yeah.
There was
and is Tura still running or
yes, still running. Yes.
Still running.
Yes.
And
yes.
Weza.
Yes.
Yeah.
Weza now, what happened with Weza is, out of Weza we changed some of the things and created a B2C company that offers phones on credit.
Phones.
Yes, it's called wezago.com.
Okay.
So, and basically what it does is it uses the same models for credit scoring, assesses people using things like bank statements and M-Pesa statements, and then now they can tell them whether to get a phone on credit. They can order online on a platform called wezago.com. Yeah, so that one is still functional.
Okay.
So out of all that, Wezago came about, but there's a team that now runs that.
Okay. So that is still alive?
Now wezago.com, out of all that learning.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So for savings, the way it came about, and specifically for Chumz, it's because one of my colleagues called Jogu had always said, we'd always discussed.
Jogu, your
yes,
childhood friend.
Yes.
Yes.
And it's very key to say that when you're building ventures,
yes,
relationships really matter. People you can trust.
Yeah.
Because things get very rough.
Yes.
And you need to know how these people respond during rough times.
Yes.
Or when you're flat broke. Because usually and that mutual trust is always something very good.
It's challenged.
Yes, it's challenged
yes,
in more ways that you can think. So we always thought all this behavioral psychology that we are learning, why don't we try a savings product? But then we are not sure. Savings and investment product. We are like, we are seeing there are all these options for people to save in banks, microfinances. But the question was, why is it that over time, lending becomes the most popular offering for a bank? Yet, when we go to what we call the 4 pillars of finance, that is savings, investment, insurance, and credit.
Yeah.
If you do savings right, people can pay off insurance, they can invest, and they can have a good credit score.
Yes.
So why is it that these entities are pushing more on lending and not largely on the savings?
One of the pillars is very weak.
Yes, it's very weak. And we thought now with behavioral psychology and our interest in the behavioral space, we would be able to try and tackle that.
Yeah.
So the first thing we did, and this is where I always say, for people who are intending to build tech solutions, it's not a must first you go and spend a lot of money in building a solution. The first thing you do is come up with what we call hypothesis. Or essentially, another way of saying, what do I need to know that needs to be true for this product to work? So number one, in our case, what would be the hypothesis or needs to be true is, one, people are actually struggling with savings despite all the various savings and investment options. So we had to know, is that true? The other hypothesis we did was people will be willing to put money on an app and that money can grow. And then 3, with anything to do with finance, how do you enhance that trust when building that product? All those 3 things, essentially for you to understand whether you can get them right, you don't need even to build a product. So the first thing we did was just build a a Google form questionnaire.
So your first hypothesis was
people are struggling with saving and investment.
Despite availability of variety options to save, people still were not able to
struggle.
save.
All the solutions that are there,
because there is a deeper problem than just
correct,
availing a saving
channel.
platform.
Yes,
Yeah,
correct.
Yeah.